Hi, everybody. My name is John DePietro.
And Bob Zagami with the Camper Report Show.
On this Camper Report Show, we are going to go to a couple of the places that we went on in the Do It Now tour. Actually, it's still on. And today we're going to visit Rehoboth Bay, Delaware. It is a great sun outdoors property, and you're going to really enjoy the tour that we've put together.
All right. And I've got an interview with Mike Sokol. You know, there's a lot of discussion about electric cars and electric trucks. And when we start to talk about electric trucks, we talk about towing. 80% of our RVs are towables. We got some interesting information, new information, insights on electric trucks and towing.
All of that plus the news of the day from RV Business and Woodall's Campground Magazine. Right here. Where, Bob?
On the Camper Report Show.
Stay with us, everybody. And everybody, welcome back to the news section of the Camper Report Show. My name is John DePietro, along with Bob Zagami. And Bob, it's been an interesting week.
Yeah, you've been out on the road there and working with your RV trip wizard, and you haven't gotten any bad turns yet, right?
Thank goodness I have the RV trip wizard, because there are a few scenarios where if I didn't have it, I might have gotten into trouble. But you know what? It's such a great tool. Everybody should have it. And it has guided me from Jacksonville, Florida to St. Augustine, Florida to the Central Florida area. And we are in North Carolina as we tape this, heading back up north. But it's been a great trip. And the thing that we're finding is the age of campers today is getting younger and younger and younger. And it used to be, maybe even 10 years ago, you'd see the average camper with a big Class A, and they'd be retirees. Today, the norm seems to be the family, not just with teen kids, but with kids in strollers. And I think that bodes well for the industry. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. How about the types of RVs? As you said, Class A's were predominant for years with the older generations, but are you seeing smaller, lighter trailers? Are you still seeing a lot of fifth wheels, motorhomes, or is it just a kind of a mix of everything?
You know, it's interesting that you asked that question, because the big push now is on for the Class B models, but I've seen very few Class Bs. I've seen more large Class A's than ever before, but I've also seen a huge number, again, maybe it's because we're down south, in toy hauler fifth wheel units, because they take their golf carts and their ATVs side by sides everywhere down here.
Yeah, interesting.
So it's interesting as we travel the roads of the South to see the number of RV parks that are here. And you know what? So many of them look very busy, at least those that you can see from the highway. So everything's going great.
The ones that you've stayed at, are they pretty much totally full?
I would say they're at least 90% full. There were a couple places during the midweek that there were some spots available, but on weekends, as the managers that I talked to said, they're going 95 to 100% capacity. And you know what? Again, it's good for the industry. It's good for the economy. And I have not heard one person comment on the price of gas.
Interesting. Well, they're out there and they're driving and they're enjoying their vacations. I know we didn't practice it, but what's the weirdest thing that you've seen in a campground you've been out there over 2 weeks now?
Oh boy,
something that stands out? There
was one unit. It was a Jeep Renegade that had a camping unit, a giant tent on top of it. So this looks like it, and this was probably really not made for campgrounds, but they had the ladder to climb up, and there was at least a double bed up on top, and that's probably been the most offbeat one. And,
well, you know, that's not as offbeat as you think, and we should probably do a show on this, because that fits into the overlander category.
Absolutely.
Starting to hear a lot. You know, we're looking at that as I think you're going to see a lot of the RV shows this next year.
Yep. That's why
section. That's what Eric Hyland's got that with his outfit at G. We're going to get Eric Hyland back on our other show. he's driving that around the world. And I saw some posts this week. He's in Costa Rica, he's in Nicaragua, and that's overlanding. They just go out there they're in the world all by themselves. They don't need anything, and very expensive. Some of them are they really outfit them.
And this was a rugged unit, and it just looked out of place at a campground, because it would be certainly in vogue if you were on the side of a mountain or in the woods somewhere, but the campground.
If you see another one of those, you might want to grab an interview.
I'll take exactly.
An interesting story. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. This was 8 o'clock in the morning when I drove by it, and there was not a lot of activity, so I didn't want to go knocking on the canvas.
Oh, just go up and bang on it. Don't they know who you are? Just go up and bang on the door.
Oh, here's the other thing I've noticed.
I'm here to do an interview. Get up.
Yeah. Along those lines, most people today are not traveling with 0 dogs or 1 dog. They're traveling with 2 and 3 dogs. And the thing is this, these are not little dogs like that you have. These are big German Shepherd type Pyrenees mountain dogs, and dogs with tons of hair to shed all over their RV. So,
wow. No, thank you.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
So, and speaking of camping in national forest, there's some news that came out from our friends at RV Business in Woodalls that parts of Yellowstone are opening up again.
It really was an interesting story, because the damage was devastating. I mean, the initial reports were that it might be closed all summer. And that summer's the peak season. People travel from all over the country to go to Yellowstone, but they've now got 93% of the roads and 88% of the back country reopening on, it's just the other day, July 13th. That they've opened up all of these roads and public access, which is amazing when you think of the damage that they had and the washouts that they had on some of those roads. I don't know how they accomplished it.
No, that's absolutely amazing, because I've been to Yellowstone, and it is a remote area, and just the mere fact of getting heavy equipment there, let alone to do the work, but just to get it there to do the work is a task in itself. So you got to give the Park Service a
absolutely
round of applause on that.
It's going to save a lot of vacations too. People that have spent a lot of money making reservations, gas getting out there. So I'm sure they appreciate it very much.
And you said people from all over the United States come to Yellowstone. That's true. People from all over the world come to Yellowstone. They fly into Salt Lake or another area, and they rent an RV. And we encountered lots of international languages when we were there a couple of years ago. So it's not just a national destination, it's international as well. And speaking of campgrounds, another story that came out from our friends in New York State, stating that private campgrounds better be ready for the legal consequences if there is a active shooter event on their property that they haven't trained their people for. Talk about that, please.
Yeah, it's a sad commentary, but you certainly can't put your head in the sand as to what's going on out there and the mental capacity of some of these people that are causing such carnage. But the campground owners of New York have a program with Town Law Firm, and they're advising their campgrounds on how to be prepared for an active shooter, how to prepare their staff. And we've seen situations with some of the shootings where staffs did not respond the way that they should, and there's potential liability for that. And they're going to have to do a lot more background checks. They're going to have to do a lot more training. Certainly going to have to institute no firearm policies, because a lot of campgrounds, if there was concealed carry, there were some people that were carrying firearms. So it's a different state of mind as to where the country goes. And it's not just campgrounds, it's restaurants, it's, it's theaters, it's golf courses. I mean, there is no place off limits if somebody with a mental deficiency is going to want to shoot up people. So it's a sad commentary, but it is a realistic approach for the campgrounds to have that, because it is a public venue.
Yep. And even though that story focuses on New York State, the issue is such that people from other parts of the country that carry weapons much more frequently as part of their normal way of life do visit those campgrounds in New York. So if they don't see the signs posted, the liability issue is a factor in their.
Well, even I can see that when you get into the campgrounds and you get that little map of all the areas and where your campground is and all the restaurants and stuff in the local area, I can see next year they're having plans on there for evacuation routes if something happens, whether it be a shooting, whether it be a flood, because we've had floods and natural disasters also that have come up quickly on campgrounds. So you're going to start to see evacuation plans on those maps of the campground territories. Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And speaking of campgrounds, there is a very interesting news story that just broke a couple of days ago. Actually, when I was in Ocala, Florida, just 2 days ago in horse country, is that there in Central Florida, above Orlando, up to the Georgia border, there is hundreds of thousands of miles of, maybe I'm exaggerating, but lots and lots of open space, and it's horse country.
It's amazing. If people haven't been there, you would think it was Kentucky, but yeah, it's a very affluent area.
Yep.
And yeah, they've proposed an RV resort at their airport. So people that have to fly out on business, and they can drive their RVs and park them at the airport and then fly out on business and come back. There's a lot of business jets that come in and out of Ocala also. Right. There's a lot of corporate money down there.
Right, exactly, in north central Florida. But the whole point is, why not use that spare space? Actually, right next to the park that we were staying. We were staying at a park that was about 200 or 300 sites, many of which were permanent park homes, such as you're familiar with. But adjacent to that, they were building a 900 site park adjacent to the one that we were already at. So certainly the demand is there for it, and the city's now getting into it. And it didn't say
that 900 wasn't the one that they're talking about in the press release.
No, this is called Orange. This is called Orange Lake RV Park that's being built right near Ocala, the former Ocala High Life facility, which is all in that area. That is interesting. You know what? It's not really developed yet, but it's near Gainesville, where's the University of Florida.
Yep.
And it's the next growth area, as you're experiencing in Southern Florida. Florida is just growing.
Well, I noticed when I went through there a few months ago, a lot of RV dealerships opening up in that area also. And I think our friends at Campers Inn have one down there, another sponsor on our tour, but I think they've got one coming down there. So a lot of the major brands, Lazy Days, General RV, they have got RV dealerships in that Ocala area.
And there's a number of large independent dealers that I've seen here along the I-85 corridor here in North Carolina. So it's growing and growing and growing. And one of the big names in the RV world is Dometic. And they make a whole bunch of different things, but talk about their new retail venture. They've got a store within a store in Sweden.
I love this because you tend to think of them as having products in the campground store. Or maybe you might see them in a Cabela's or a Bass Pro Shop, but they've actually opened up a Dometic store inside of an outdoor store, very famous one in Stockholm called I think it's Haglofs. But within the store, there is a Dometic store, a public retail store. And they are an international corporation. They are headquartered over in that area. So how long before we see Dometic stores in the United States? We had them on, they were on our show on our RVing in New England show last night with Jordan Anderson, the NASCAR driver, and they're sponsoring his truck and his car in NASCAR. And they're putting a big push, and now they're branding a lot of their products Dometic Outdoors. So when you look at the truck that they're sponsoring, that's exactly what it says.
Dometic
so
Outdoors.
when you think about the number of outdoor stores and the emphasis on outdoor entertainment and outdoor enjoyment with the Great American Act, the Outdoor Recreation Roundtable, all the different companies that are pushing outdoors, Dometic they've had a tremendous growth spurt the last couple of years, and you can almost see where they're going with this. And the question will be, how long before we see a Dometic retail store somewhere in the States?
Yeah, exactly. You think of Dometic as indoors with refrigerators and toilets and chemicals, but evidently they are branching out.
Got a big outdoor product line. Yep.
So that wraps up.
More yeah.
That's it for the news section here on the Camper Report Show. Stay with us. We've got two great features, and the name of this show, Bob, is what?
The Camper Report Show.
I'm Jesse from Outsiders Calling, and I love adventurous family travel with my wife Jenny and our son Tucker.
For over 3 years, we've RV'd across the US and Mexico, and it's tough to find places that meet all our needs.
Now we plan our trips with the RV Trip Wizard, pull it up in the RV Life app, select it, and go.
It helps us discover amazing new places to grow together as a family.
RV Trip Wizard with the RV Life app is an awesome trip planning combination.
You can get both for one low annual price. Check out rvlife.com to learn more.
Okay, welcome back everybody to the Camper Report Show, and I brought back a special guest today, Mike Sokol, who is the #1 RV electrical expert in our industry. And Mike, I saw a lot of articles just the last couple of weeks of some very failed testing of electric vehicles and towing trailers. And 80% of our vehicles that are sold, RVs that are sold, are towables. And I'm sure a lot of these people are anxious to have an electric truck. Probably not going to happen tomorrow. So I want you back to give us an update on what the real world is on electrification these days.
Right. I'm all about real world stuff, and thanks very much for having me on again. And now I did some pretty extensive testing last July and August on some vehicles. Ford had not given me one of their all electric ones just yet, but I did some stuff. I did some towing with their hybrid 1500 series pickup truck, which was interesting. And then I also towed some smaller trailers around with a Volkswagen ID4, just a little SUV. And I came up with kind of a set of percentages, which I was pretty sure was going to translate to larger vehicles. And now that I'm seeing this report that you sent me, and a bunch of other people are really squawking about this, I said, I knew this a year ago. I could predicted this a year ago. And because what, go ahead.
What was the principle of the article? Because it was really dramatic. And, I'm not technical. I drive them.
Right.
That's it. But
so basically,
really striking.
Yeah, it was. So what they did was they took an F-150 Lightning, all electric truck, and they had another F-150 of some sort. I can't remember whatever it was. So basically a gas version of this thing. And they filled them both up, with electricity and gasoline. And then they both kind of went down the highway. And the thing that was the real failure was the fact that they cranked all of the numbers of the trailer size and everything that they were going to be doing into the computer of the Lightning, of the Ford Lightning. And it predicted, I don't know, what was it, 185 mile range that they were going to get out of this. They go down the highway, they can't even get 85 miles out of this thing. And they're out of juice. And they can't figure out why. Now, of course, they're worried about trailer weight. We worry about that a lot. But in reality, when you're towing, especially with an electric vehicle, it's not about the weight, it's about the wind. So I had found in my own testing that if you were trying to maintain 65, 70 miles an hour, you might as well throw away 70% of your range. Just right off the bat. You just do it. It's gone.
And this wasn't a lot of weight in terms of trailer life. I mean, some of our trailers are 10, 12, 15,000 pounds. This was 6,000 pound trailers.
Right. But people have got to understand the weight is less of an issue with electric vehicles than it is with gas or diesel. Because look at it, if you go, and one of the things I also experimented with, if you're going up a big hill, you're burning extra diesel or gasoline or electrons in this case. But when you go down a hill, normally you would have an exhaust brake, right? Or you would step on the brakes and you would turn all of that energy that you use climbing the hill into heat. An electric vehicle will recover 80% of that and put it right back in the battery through its dynamic braking. But, again, it's the speed thing that really kills you, because that adds that wind resistance. And they are not taking that wind resistance of these trailers into calculations, because basically you've got a big old box hanging back there. Now, back in the 70s, my parents had a high-low trailer. I think a 24 or 26-foot one. They wanted to give it to me, and I'm like, why would I want that? I'm a rock star. I do all this. I wish I would have kept it. But that thing, he could put it behind my dad's Plymouth station wagon. You could tow that all over the place. And it was not a light trailer, but the high-lows, it like clamshells down.
Right.
Oh, and it was really no higher than your tow vehicle.
Right.
And it was always a hit when we went to a campground with it and that sort of thing. And so that's something that could really work well. Standard fifth wheels, you're never going to be able to tow a fifth wheel more than 50 miles, I think, with one of these right now. I think that may change. Battery technology is growing and improving with leaps and bounds as we see computer technology and phone technology. The phone in your pocket is an incredible computer. Just look at the camera that you've got in your phone, just for an example. Electric vehicles are going to have the same sort of pattern and flow, but right now we only have practical electric vehicles, I think, for local use. We don't have the infrastructure up yet to be able to go on the highway. One of the things that these guys noticed, which I discovered a year ago, there are really no charging stations with room for a trailer attached to the back of a pickup truck. I even when I was towing my little X-Pod around on a Volkswagen, I mean, there was no place for that. I've talked to the guys from Electrify in America and a few of the other ones, and they're going, "Oh, is that a real thing?" And I'm going, "Oh, it's a real thing."
Yeah.
We would like to not have to disconnect our trailer every couple of hours to go charge this thing up for an hour. That's just insane, especially with
Also, we see these pictures. There was several published within the last couple of weeks of waiting lines to get into the charging station itself. That there were 2 and 3 hours people were waiting because it was taking so long for other people to
some of them they've dumbed down the power. Some of them that I have a Walmart Supercenter a mile from me, and they've got like 8 chargers or something. Half the time, half of them are down. I don't know why they're down. You go over, this one's dead, and that one's dead. It says move over to the other one. I'm going, I don't understand why these things aren't working, right?
Maybe, and then, I'm so technically inclined, Mike, maybe they're out of gas.
Perhaps they're out of gas. And then some of them, what they've done, instead of having the 150 kilowatt chargers, which would allow you to charge this thing up an hour, you get one and it's dumbed down. It's like having a really slow gas nozzle, right? You ever try to fill up a big camper with a little gas? Right. When I was doing the diesel stuff with my Sprinter, I like the fact that I could get the big pump, right, at the diesel pumps. It would fill that thing up in 2 minutes flat, man. You were done. Right. And I don't know. And again, the infrastructure is not quite there, not yet. They're working on it, but I think for cross country stuff, it's a real crapshoot as to whether you could do it. And whatever mileage you predict, you better throw away half of it if you're going to be towing a trailer. Again, it's not about the weight. You could put an extra 2,000 pounds in that trailer that those guys did, because they're basically car trailers. It looked like they were towing, right?
Yeah, like a cargo trailer, right?
A cargo trailer for cars.
Yeah. Well, also I read where Ford is limiting the Lightning to commercial account. Not all of them, but the majority of them are going to commercial accounts rather than consumers. And to me, a commercial account is the builder, the bricklayer, the masonry guy, the wood people. They're going to be loading these things up with a lot of other stuff just on the truck itself.
Right. Where I think that they're getting ahead of over their skis, as we would say, with this, because you're right. Now what I had found was the power boost stuff that I had, the F-150 with the 7,200 watt generator built into it. That was an incredibly cool truck, because this thing could run its generator for like 60, 70, 80 hours on a tank of gas, which would mean you could pull in a residential area, plug in whatever you want, plug a welder into this thing, plug anything you wanted into it, and you could run it for days. Or I'd actually hooked up and, powered an Airstream all day with it. I went and powered multiple 30 amp RVs with it, and it would run for 24, 48 hours without messing around, with very little noise, very little pollution, no mucking around. It was automatic. It was a thing of beauty. But they really don't want to promote that truck as much as the Lightning, because the Lightning is now, we've got to have all electric vehicles, blah, 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 blah,
Right.
that kind of thing, because they're trying to compete with GM and all of these guys are late. Rivian was supposed to give me a demo 2 years ago, 2 years. That they go, oh, wait, we don't have one yet. We don't have one yet. I'm going, but you promised me a year ago, 2 years ago. Well, we don't have any available. I said, just tell me where I can go to get a test drive. Well, there are none available. And I'm going, well, how can that be? If you're taking people's money for down payments and you don't have an example yet that works?
I think I just saw an article this morning, in fact, that they've only delivered 4,400 Rivians up to date. So they're not on target at all.
They're not on target at all. And so it's tough because here's the thing. The electric motor technology is actually really quite mature. And they know what they're doing with this, because this is the speed controls and stuff that we've been doing in industrial situations for decades. It's the battery technology, which is a moving target, right, and the charging technology, which is a moving target. Everybody's interested in, if you're driving on the road, you want to be able to charge up as quickly as you can. And that's all great. But the fact of the matter is, I think most EVs, let's say that you're going to be driving to work back and forth with a daily driver, you only need a class 2 charger that can plug it basically into a 50 amp outlet in your garage. And it would charge it up over a 10-hour period. And the same thing at campgrounds. This is going to be another thing. When you pull into a campground, you're going to want to have 3 times the power you used to have before, because you're going to want to be able to recharge your EV at full juice, maybe your Toad that you want to charge up, yep, and also then charge your your actually power your air conditioners and all your lifestyle stuff in your RV. And I'm not sure you guys have actually run the numbers yet. Campgrounds are in serious trouble as it is.
Yeah, it's a big topic of discussion, because I think you're right. They're pushing it. Yes, we'll be there someday, but
it will be there someday.
If you and I were sitting around a campfire with campers today, and I asked you, what's a realistic time frame where it's acceptable? It's nice now, and the government's pushing it. There's a lot of subsidies. They all feel they have to be there. So there's a lot of hype, and we don't want campers.
There's a lot of hype, right?
Jumping on this bandwagon. When do you think, if you're a camper with a big fifth wheel, big travel trailer, realistically, when do you think it's mainstream?
I think that they will have, and I'm trying to think about what I can talk about here, because I'm under some NDAs. I'm actually doing some testing for some people on some of this stuff, which is kind of neat, but the numbers that I'm looking at, I would say within 4 to 5 years, you would have the battery technology will at least doubled to where the point where you can actually expect a realistic 600-mile range out of a vehicle, and your charging times will get closer, will get lower. So probably you could charge that up in 20 or 30 minutes. And I would think within 10 years, you could completely replace gasoline engines if you wanted to. But I'm also saying the infrastructure has to catch up with it. And as we were discussing beforehand, you've got to have power generation and power distribution issues. Materials needed for lithium batteries, and there may be some other things coming on, I think are less of an issue, because there's some exciting technologies for that could happen. And again, people get really excited about the amount of pollution that you generate with that. But again, I've as we've discussed, I've been around coal mines when I was a little kid. I've been around oil fields. I've been around strip mines. All energy production is dirty, filthy business. It just is. So you pick your poison. You just have to.
Yeah. Well, look at our guest today has been Mike Sokol, the #1 RV electrical expert in our industry today. Mike, I want to appreciate very much you coming on today and giving us an update. And we're going to have you back on a regular basis because this is a hot topic around the campfires, and people, they want to buy them, but they're questioning exactly when are they really going to be ready for RVers.
Yeah, don't buy one yet and plan to go camping next week. It ain't going to happen.
Mike, thanks very much. We'll catch up to you later.
Okay, Bob, thank you so much.
All right, bye now.
Mike here from RV Blogger. Don't waste hundreds of dollars on an external GPS for your RV. All you need to do is download the RV Life app right onto your phone. This app is so cool. It has RV GPS built right into it. So you can load all the specific measurements and weights for your RV. It'll give you directions safe for your RV to follow. And by the way, if you have RV Trip Wizard, directions for your trips upload into this GPS automatically.
The sign says Sun Outdoors. It's a sunny day. We're outdoors. We are at Rehoboth Bay at Sun Outdoors. We are in the great state of Delaware. We're here with Amy. And Amy, this is a beautiful facility. I'm sure you're very proud of it.
I sure am.
You know, when you look around, and we took a ride on the golf cart, it's an extensive property. You don't just have RV sites. You have several other accommodations for people to enjoy the facility, even if they don't own an RV. Talk about what else you got here.
So we have 65 lodging opportunities for folks. Actually, we have more than that. We have 63 cabins or cottages that sleep up to 7. We have 5 RV rentals, and we also have safari tents where people can stay, and we have 2 queens in those.
With the canvas.
Absolutely.
And the air running through them.
You know it. Those
Yeah,
are
exactly.
wonderful for fall and spring adventures.
Exactly. So, you know what? When I see those brightly colored cabins, it's probably not the best word, cabins, but, you know, those facilities, they can bring in people that, again, don't own an RV but want to enjoy the RV lifestyle.
Absolutely. We're all about inclusive. So you can pack your family up, come on down here to Sun Outdoors Rehoboth Bay. You can stay in one of our cottages, which are fully furnished. They come with everything you need to cook a great meal, have a nice drink. They come with a screened-in porch, pull-out sofa, sleep up to 7, and it's everything you need to make a great weekend or a great long vacation.
So when you say you pack up your family, let's go, I mean, there are attractions here for the entire family, from the little kids playground to a little bigger kids playground to, what do you got, 2 pools?
Absolutely. We have our pool, which is our family pool. That's brand new, was just put in yesterday. That's got several water features such as dumping buckets and spouts. And then we also have the biggest pool bar in Delaware right here, where kids can come out and swim on one side and parents can grab a cool beverage on the other side.
A cool beverage on the other side. So also, I understand that you provide a couple of different dining opportunities, both in your main welcome center, which, by the way, is a pretty impressive building, as well as right on the water. Talk about that, Amy.
We do. We actually have an ice cream shop that's open every day here. We have our restaurant, which is the Jack Spot, that serves all of our menu items each day. And then we have a tiki bar and restaurant that's right on our beach area, and that's open to guests of all ages.
Wow. Where are your people coming from?
Most of our guests are coming right here from Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and the good old state of New York.
The good old state of New York. So I know you're new here and don't know big history, but my guess is that based upon the familiarity of the guests that I saw, a lot of these people have been here numerous times in the past.
Absolutely. We pride ourselves in welcoming back our guests. We do have a lot of rebooking specials. We also have local specials here for folks. And we have people that have been coming here for the 6 or 7 years that this resort has been open.
So it is very new when it comes to a lot of the facilities that are 50 and 60 years old.
Absolutely, and we are continuing to grow and continuing to improve our facilities each and every day to enhance our guest experience.
No.
We're listening to our guests and listening to what they want to see here on our property and trying to meet their needs.
Now, one of the attractions that my granddaughter saw on the program as soon as she got here was the water obstacle course. Talk a little bit about that.
So we have a water obstacle course which we put out from Father's Day through Labor Day. That allows guests of all ages to get on the water. And it's just an obstacle course that they can climb around, then swim over to the dock and try it again.
Try it again, over and over again.
Absolutely.
So sometimes they fall, sometimes they make it, and sometimes they get up and get wet and start all over.
That's right. We call it the Sun Outdoor Gladiator course.
Okay, so if people want to book their reservations, what's their best way to do it?
They can get online at Sun Outdoors Rehoboth Bay, or they can give us a call here at the resort, 302-947-2600.
Okay, there we go. So folks, if you're looking for a great place, as I pan around here, a great place to bring your family on the water, near the water, or you don't even have to go near the water. We happen to be near the water at right here at, Amy, tell us again.
Sun Outdoors Rehoboth Bay, where the sun shines.